Welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Purple Mafia is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps. I thank each and every one of you once and always for downloading and listening to this show. It is a great pleasure to be back on board with you once again today, as here we are, a new NFL season is upon us. Minnesota Vikings and NFL season preview 2024. Here we go. '24, what do you make of it? Well, hard to say exactly when you think about players getting injured, of course, cornerbacks dying, more cornerbacks getting injured, and, well, veterans signing to help out at the cornerback position, and then, quarterback of the future, JJ McCarthy, out for the season with a meniscus tear and the required surgery.
Here we go. God. Oh, what? Come on!
What? Everything's fine. You know, he was supposed to sit out the whole season anyway. Well, how do we know? How do we know? Who knows? There's a pretty good chance JJ McCarthy could have been the starter by the midway through the season, could have been the starter by week 4, could have been the starter by week 10. He could have been a starter at some point during the year, and all those practice reps that he won't get. So that kind of stinks. But at least JJ McCarthy will be there. He will be there in person to learn. So quarterbacks do learn one way or another while watching. Aaron Rodgers had to do it forever. Jordan Love had to do it for a significant amount of time. So, yes, I'm comparing two Green Bay Packer quarterbacks. Heck, even Tom Brady didn't start his rookie year. Joe Montana didn't start his rookie year. So it is what it is. Maybe they played some games, but J.J. McCarthy won't play a single down, unfortunately, in his rookie year because of a torn meniscus and, of course, electing for the full-on surgery rather than, let's just take a chance that the guy will have arthritis by like age 30. Yeah, that'd be really smart. So, no, let's not take the chance, and let's go. So, a very impressive preseason game by J.J. McCarthy. Maybe we can talk about that just for a minute, I guess. I'm not big on preseason as much as I used to be, though I do enjoy watching it for the most part. Not super, I like to research tendencies and such. I mean, the Vikings did go 3-0 in the preseason this year, which is pretty cool, and we appreciate it. A 24-23 victory, a game which looked like the Vikings were probably going to lose, and then J.J. McCarthy looked pretty damn good. Sam Darnold looked halfway decent in the preseason for the most part, or at least in this one game, because obviously he's going to be the starting quarterback no matter what now. Attempting 8 passes, 4 completions. Yeah, 4 touchdowns. That's real cute. Kenny Nwangwu, now former Minnesota Viking Kenny Nwangwu, who was cut and then claimed by the New Orleans Saints and failed his physical. So we'll see what happens with Kenny Nwangwu. Apparently the Vikings not so worried about his excellent ability to return kicks because that seems to be becoming more and more of a thing of the past, or changes in the system, changes in the rules and such. But J.J. McCarthy, insanely impressive in his first ever action as an NFL quarterback. Yes, in a preseason game, but out of 17 attempts, 11 completions, and looked damn good doing it. He did have one mistake, the mental error, throwing a ball that was picked off for an interception, of course. Again, just kind of a mental error, kind of timing his pass and such, like, whoops. But it was just one play, and it was like right after that, J.J. McCarthy pretty much took control of the football game. And a lot of talk is, again, Sam Darnold, and of course you see it in the press conferences and others. Sam Darnold's kind of, he's kind of a guy. He's kind of a guy. He's the quarterback. He's this, he's that. But J.J. McCarthy is the guy. You know what I mean? Like, there's a big difference. Like, J.J. McCarthy is going to absolutely wear the C, no doubt about it, in not too long from now. Obviously not this year. But Sam Darnold's just kind of a guy. That's the thing. That's probably one of the reasons why Sam Darnold hasn't become the franchise quarterback he was supposed to be when he was drafted 3rd overall by the New York Jets. That doesn't mean Sam Darnold doesn't have the ability to still be a very, very productive starting quarterback in the NFL. So far, rankings, what do they have him ranked? Like 26th in one of these deals where Minnesota Sports and Purple Daily, Phil Mackey, Judd Zulgad, Declan Goff, all of them kind of talked about the rankings of the quarterbacks in the NFL. Obviously, starting off with the Chiefs quarterback. I'm not a big fan of the team. He's a good player, great player and everything, obviously. I don't want to get into the GOAT talk either. We can sit off of that just for a little bit. Let's see, 7 minus 3. That's 4 Super Bowls to go. So let's chill with the GOAT talk. Yeah. You're not even halfway there yet. But anyhow, sorry, I know. I just get a little bit annoyed with some of that. I think it's pretty disrespectful to Tom Brady, honestly. I mean, hello, guys. Hello, please. Hopefully JJ McCarthy's the next Tom Brady. Hopefully he is. And then we can have the real GOAT in Minnesota. Wouldn't that be something? Or a tie for a GOAT. Jaron Hall looked a lot like the same guy that was out there on New Year's Eve against the Green Bay Packers. He looked awful, absolutely awful for the most part. I guess he had a couple of moments, but then later on in the preseason, Jaron Hall kept looking better and better. Unfortunately, again, he also cut. After making the team, he was cut, and then Brett Ripien was signed. So Brett Ripien, the son of the Ripien that actually won the Super Bowl here in Minnesota as a Washington Redskin back in 92, of course, the 91 season. Of course, that was Mark Ripien. I was almost going to say Mike. No, it's Mark. Yeah. Mark Ripien was mostly a backup quarterback throughout his career, but good enough to start for the Washington Redskins and lead them to a Super Bowl championship. A far superior team than that Buffalo Bills club. A year before, the Buffalo Bills were the best team in the league, but couldn't finish the job against the New York Giants, unfortunately. They had the winning drive down the field, and Dennis Northcutt missed. He just missed, and that's just a fact. And the poor guy never played another down in the NFL or never kicked another never had another field goal attempt after that. So you feel bad for a person like that. Oh, you do. But yes, Mark Ripien, that's the acquisition, of course. He's played for the Broncos, the Rams, the Seahawks, the New York Jets, just like Sam Darnold, but not with Sam Darnold. Chicago Bears. He was with the Bears just recently in the preseason, and now has wound up with the Minnesota Vikings. So good for us, I guess. Overall career numbers: passing attempts 168, pass completions 98 for a completion percentage of 58.3. Touchdown to interception ratio: 4 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Nick Mullins, eat your heart out. But yeah, the passing yards 950. Nick Mullins might get that in 2 games. It took, unfortunately, Mark Ripien a heck of a lot more. Passer rating of 59.9. People are like, oh, the Vikings are the Vikings are doomed. Yeah, it's your third string quarterback. Okay, it's your third string quarterback. You're doomed if your third string quarterback is playing. That's a fact. Yeah, so we were doomed when Jaron Hall played last year as well. If your third string quarterback is playing, you're doomed. Heck, Nick Mullins, well, he was entertaining to watch, but things didn't go so well either. He will be the backup quarterback. At least all indicators are in that conversation. But yes, again, those are your quarterbacks going into the season. Obviously, JJ McCarthy is the quarterback of the future, and he looks the part. Looked absolutely wonderful. It just sucks that a torn meniscus and the necessary surgery leads to him being on the IR for the entire season. The entire season. Yes, other players, TJ Hawkinson, 4 games out with that IR. It's the partial season IR, the 4-game one. So that's how that goes. Your running backs at the moment are Ty Chandler and, of course, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is the main guy. Sounds like Myles Gaskin will be on the Minnesota Vikings, though at the moment he's on the practice squad. So what do we make of that? I don't know. He's on the practice squad, I guess. So that's kind of how that goes. I guess it's time maybe to read off the cuts. And, of course, I am not somebody who revels in players getting cut because getting cut sucks. A lot of us that have played sports have been cut. We've made teams and we've been cut. Getting cut really sucks. And it's nothing to laugh at or go, oh, well, you know, that's a bleep happens. No, it still sucks. So I just want to make sure I'm in the right place here, right time. Najee Thompson, placed on injured reserve, a special teams standout. This is, of course, since the last episode of Purple Mafia, unfortunately. That was way back at the beginning of August. Nashawn Wright, yep, the Vikings traded Andrew Booth to the Dallas Cowboys for Nashawn Wright. He was also cut, but then signed to the practice squad. We'll get back to that in a little bit. Jordan Knutzik signed by the Vikings. He's a linebacker. Jabril Cox waived, unfortunately due to injury, placed in injured reserve on IR after being waived. So apparently, I guess he'll be collecting some money. That was, of course, after an injury during the preseason game. Same day, or well, a couple of days later, injured reserve JJ McCarthy. See, it was just knee soreness. We'll see what happens. Oh crap! It's a meniscus, and it's the kind of meniscus where you just you don't want to bleep with it, especially a guy that's 21 years old. Do you really want JJ McCarthy to basically be completely immobilized at age 31? Wouldn't that be depressing? Like I don't even want to think about it, and I don't even want to think about the thought of Karl Anthony Towns, who actually he elected for the shorter term surgery, where it's more like shaving things down, so to speak. Hopefully, it's so minor that there's really nothing missing. And supposedly, Northwestern University has some kind of technology coming that can help replace some of that missing cushion with the meniscus tendon or meniscus. In a lot of ways, a meniscus is like a gasket. It's kind of like a gasket in between the two bones, like the upper bone and the lower bone of your leg, inside your knee. Yeah, it's like a gasket, like it's the thing in between, but of course like more gentle, whereas a gasket in an engine kind of keeps things together and prevents leaking, obviously, because it keeps the two different parts together, so to speak. But if it gets cracked, it leaks and da-da-da-da-da. If a meniscus gets damaged, you're in a lot of pain and it needs to be fixed, or you will be needing a knee replacement much later in life, or maybe not even that far in the future. I'm sure way back in the old days, people were pretty much crippled the rest of their life because I don't think meniscus surgery really existed in the Civil War or something like that. I'm not sure what people did back then. Maybe just pray to God the thing heals naturally because it's not too severe. But if you get that, they call it bucket handle version of the tear. Oh boy. There must be really intense motion, though, for that to happen. I'm guessing that was not the case for JJ McCarthy because he would have been, carried off the field kind of like Adrian Peterson was. Yeah, if it was a bucket handle, that's a pretty big tear, like right through the middle of the damn thing. Whew. Anyhow, Matt Corral, a pretty high draft pick, honestly, and drafted a year after Kellen Mond was signed to the Minnesota Vikings. The 30th pick of the third round, so not that high, kind of the middle of the draft. By the Carolina Panthers in 2022, and I guess unfortunately for him, he was just a training camp arm, and that's about it. Out of Ventura, California, from Ole Miss, unfortunately has not played a single snap in the National Football League. That's too bad. I don't know. Hopefully Matt Corral can resurface at some point. He was just a camp arm. Minnesota Vikings then did sign Stephon Gilmore, which was wonderful, on August the 18th. Incentives up to $10 million for the season, depending on how well he does. So hopefully it's not like they have to win the Super Bowl for him to get that much money. Obviously a very established cornerback, because the Vikings have had like 900 injuries at the cornerback position, including the death of Tyree Jackson that didn't even get to play a damn game for Minnesota. Breaks your heart, it really does. Stephon Gilmore, 6 foot 190, born September 19th, 1990, out of Rock Hill, South Carolina, College, South Carolina. 2012 first-round pick by the Buffalo Bills, 10th overall. Very, very high pick at the end of the day. First 5 seasons in Buffalo, multiple Pro Bowls. 4 Pro Bowl appearances by this guy. 31 career interceptions, including 6 with the New England Patriots in 2019. Won the Super Bowl in 2018 with one of the best defenses I've ever seen, frankly. Pretty obvious reason why the New England Patriots won 2018. When Tom Brady, one of my favorite players, if not my favorite player of all time, got the MVP for that game, I was like, why? And again, one of my favorite, if not my favorite, football player of all time. He should not have gotten the MVP of that game. It should have been like one of the defensive players in that game. There were multiple defenders. I'm blanking on the names at the moment, but because it's years ago now. But it should have been one of the defenders. I don't want to say a name and then come off like an idiot and say the wrong guy. So that's why I'm kind of holding off. But because it's not important right now. We're talking about the 24 Vikings. But I don't know. maybe Gilmore was one of those guys because I remember him pretty well with the Patriots. 4 years there, including a Super Bowl ring. And then became a little bit of a journeyman the past couple of years, playing with 3 different teams. Now his 4th team in 4 years. 2021 Carolina Panthers. I'm sorry that Sorry you had to deal with that. Only 8 games as well, getting banged up. 2022, the Indiana, the Indianapolis Colts. That's not too good either. A member of the team that blew a 33-point lead. That sucks. And then the Dallas Cowboys, an outstanding defense the last couple of years. Under Mr. Quinn there, who's now the coach of the Washington Commanders, I guess they're called. He played all 17 games last year, and he did play all 16 games with, well, no, that was the year they changed it, so he did miss a single game with the Indianapolis Colts. But again, 31 career interceptions, 8 tackles for losses, only 1 sack throughout his career, so he's definitely not a corner blitz guy necessarily, not a whole lot, but just an overall great coverage type of a guy. 140 pass deflections. That's a lot. 20 with 2 of these last 2 years in 2018 and 2019 with the Patriots. Arguably his 2 best years in the league, arguably, but he did have some great seasons in Buffalo as well. There's no doubt about that. His last year in Buffalo was pretty damn good. 18 pass deflections in one of those years. Great overall career, though, so far by Stephon Gilmore, and hopefully he'll continue it with the Vikings. Probably not necessarily counting on winning a Super Bowl, as a lot of us would agree. The Vikings' chances of making the playoffs this year aren't at the top of the list, I'd have to say. Justin Hall signed with the Vikings along the way. Ty James, wide receiver, also the Vikings. Ty James was waived when Stephon Gilmore was brought in, and Justin Hall was signed. Okay. Seth Vernon was waived on August 19th. The Vikings punter position is good and ready to go. Neil Johnson, tight end, claimed from waivers off of the New York Jets. Najee Thompson's out for the season, unfortunately, with a knee injury. That sucks. Jamie Flax also waived due to injury. Matt Cindric signed by the Minnesota Vikings offensive line. Matt Cindric, Najee Thompson placed an injury reserve out for the season after being waived. Mohamed Ibrahim signed with the Vikings at the running back position. Yep, again, kind of camp pieces here. Chuck Filiga signed with the Vikings on August 22nd. Jabril Cox waived. On the 22nd, Trey Knox waived, again after being claimed by the Vikings. Interesting. Waived on the 22nd. Jacoby Francis waived by the Vikings. That's a cornerback. Jeremy Flax plays on injured reserve and IR after injury, so that's Flax again. Trey Knox placed on injured reserve after being waived due to injury. And now we get down to the full cuts along the way. One that's relatively surprising, kind of, sort of, Dwayne McBride. Justin Hall. Yep, Dwayne McBride, running back. Justin Hall, wide receiver. Chuck Filiga, offensive line. Samus Reyes, tight end. Dalton Reisner plays on injured reserve. That's the other big name. A lot of people thought he was going to get cut, but he'll miss the first 4 games, and we'll see a decision made after that. A.J. Green III waived, I do believe. Yes, Doug Nestor waived. Both offensive linemen, Mohamed Ibrahim, waived. Spencer Rowland, offensive line, waived. Jalen Williams, cornerback, waived. Neil Johnson, tight end, waived. That's the one that was claimed. Tyler Manoa, kind of a cool name, but unfortunately waived. Defensive line, Owen Porter. Outside linebacker, waived. Matt Corral, waived. Quarterback, of course. Jacqueline Roy. Defensive line, Jacqueline Roy, waived. Lucky Jackson, waived. Bo Richter, like Richter Belmont in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and, of course, Rondo of Blood on the PC Engine. Yes, sir. Or the the Japanese TurboGrafx, pardon me. Released by the Vikings. Yep. Outside linebacker, James Lynch. I remember he had an injury a couple of years ago. Defensive line looked promising for a bit. He was a draft pick in the Spielman era. Not too far back. Released. Yep. Gabriel Murphy placed on injured reserve, unfortunately. So another guy with injury. Lewis Seen, the 30th overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, waived. And he will be a Buffalo Bill. I thought he was claimed by the Jets, but he will be a Buffalo Bill. Myles Gaskin, running back, Miami Dolphins, formerly released. And he's been kind of in and out of the Vikings the last couple of years. But sounds like they like him. But they keep, up and down. It's really weird. Jordan Kunasik, linebacker, injured reserve. Man, a lot of guys getting hurt. It sucks. Preseason's really rough, man. Tyrese Robinson, offensive guard, released. N'Keal Harry, tight end, released. Dallas Gant. I was like, ooh, waived. Dallas Gant, the one everyone was talking very positively about. Well, don't get too worried about that just yet, but still kind of, some people thought he was going to make the 53. Jonah Williams, released. Malik Knowles, no relation to a singer I'm not a big fan of. Another injury designation, apparently. Interesting. Joshua Jones, wide receiver, waived. Henry Bird, offensive guard, released. Thayer Thomas, waived. That's a receiver. Nashawn Wright, cornerback acquired for Andrew Booth, Cowboys, waived. What the heck? Andre Carter, Mr. Mankato himself, at least some of us believed, Andre Carter II, extremely promising, the next Orlando Pace, waived. What the heck? Well, again, don't worry too much yet. Kene Nwangwu, one of the great kick returners ever, right? But can't stay bleeping healthy, waived. And again, he failed his physical with the Saints, that figures. Bobby McCain, defensive back, who can play, again, cornerback and safety. Dolphins, released. Robert Tonyan, familiar guy, released. Tight end, of course. Thayer Thomas. Now we get into the practice squad. Thayer Thomas, wide receiver, signed to the practice squad. Nashawn Wright, the Cowboy guy, practice squad. Cornerback, of course, Joshua Jones, wide receiver, signed, practice squad. Dallas Gant, linebacker, signed to the practice squad. Henry Bird, offensive guard, practice squad. Myles Gaskin, practice squad. Because, see, like in the past, you couldn't sign a veteran like that to the practice squad. It had to be a younger player. You know, now you can sign veterans, which I think is better. Like, let the people have a dang job, dang it. Robert Tonyan, so he's sticking around as a tight end in the practice squad. Bobby McCain, another veteran, defensive back, practice squad. Jonah Williams, practice squad. Kenny Nwangwu claimed by the Saints, and I already repeated myself 50 times. Dwayne McBride somehow gets back to the practice squad, but I suppose, yes. Bo Richter, Belmont, just kidding. Practice squad. He's an offensive linebacker, outside linebacker, Offensive guard, Tyrus Robinson. I suppose there is only one side of the guard. It is offense. Practice squad, of course. Jalen Williams, cornerback. Practice squad. Andre Carter II. Practice squad. I'm glad the Vikings were able to keep Gant and Andre Carter II. I was a bit worried about that. Samus Ray's tight end. Practice squad. N'Keal Harry, tight end. Practice squad. Lucky Jackson. His luck continues. Sorry. Practice squad. Interesting. I'm seeing something here that's been updated. But, practice squad for Lucky Jackson. Jeshaun Jones, wide receiver, released. Jeshaun Jones now released from the practice squad along with Dwayne McBride. Bummer. Ricky Lee, practice squad ad. So instead, it's Ricky Lee the third, whatever. So he's knocked some of those other guys out. Jaron Hall was waived. Vikings did sign Brett Ripien, and then Xavier Scott is a different one, added to the practice squad now. So that's kind of the reason for some of these other guys getting knocked out. Dwayne McBride, again, gone again. What the heck for Xavier Scott? Okay, Xavier Scott. Brett Ripien, again, not the great numbers, and Scott has not played it down in the NFL. Born in 1999, which means he's not that young. Brett Ripien, obviously he is what he is. Mark was a little better. He wasn't anything great either. But, those are your cuts and your practice squads and all that good stuff. Andre Carter had a great preseason for the most part, but luckily the Vikings were able to keep him on the practice squad along with Dallas Gant. Those are probably the two biggest name guys here at the moment. Gaskin, they keep talking about him like he's on Minnesota, not on the practice squad. So I don't know. At the moment, the Vikings still have two active running backs. Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler. Quarterback Sam Darnold, Nick Mullins, Brett Ripien, TJ Hawkinson out for the first 3 weeks. Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, and Nick Muse are your tight ends. Wide receiver Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Jalen Naylor's looked on as number 3. It's between him and Brandon Powell, the little guy, but with some talent. Tristan Jackson, who had a pretty good preseason, and Sherfield had the big touchdown. Also from our guy, JJ McCarthy. CJ Ham was the fullback with a whole lot of nothing for, what do they call that? Competition. Defense. Jerry, left defensive end, Jerry Tillery, and Mr. Rodriguez there. 7th round pick who had a fantastic Levy Drake Rodriguez, so you could call him LDR. Sounds kind of cool. He's not that young. 7th round pick, though, 12th overall in the 7th round. 6'4" defensive lineman. He'll be playing on the defensive end position. Very promising preseason. So looks like a pretty nice 7th round pick, honestly. Again, this is a 3-4 defense. Nose tackle Harrison Phillips, who is a tough son of a gun, being backed up by Taki Taimani. Pretty cool name there. Who did make the club. Taki Taimani. No relation. Okay, nothing. He has not played it down in the NFL, but he is now a Minnesota Viking. Congratulations, Taki Taimani. Undrafted free agent, too. So people very happy for him going forward. Jonathan Bullard, who played a significant role last year, will be the right defensive end, backed up by Jalen Redmond. Also, no downs in the NFL yet, born in 99. So some youthful players on this defense, no doubt about it. Not that young, but young enough. Ivan Pace Jr. will be your main dog there at the left inside linebacker, backed up by Brian Asamoah II, who made the team by the skin of his teeth. A lot of people thought that maybe Dallas Gant or Carter were going to knock him out, but it didn't happen yet. But I do think that they're looming. That objects in your mirror are closer than they appear. Pardon me. And so that's where Brian Asamoah still he made the team, but he's going to have to really watch his back because guess what? Yeah, Blake Cashman, linebacker, the main guy, backed up by Mr. Camus Gruger Hill, who formerly played by the 6th round pick by the Patriots years ago. A veteran in this league, played with Carolina last year. Ugh, sorry, I know I have nothing against the Carolina Panthers. They just sucked last year, man. And I felt bad for Adam Thielen, too. He did have an interception. Did not lead to a touchdown, but a nice return nonetheless. Decent backup linebacker. That's pretty much what you could call him, KGH. Sounds kind of cool. Camus Gruger Hill. Veteran, reserve, linebacker, second string kind of guy. Secondary, Stephon Gilmore will be starting at the left cornerback position, at least we'd like to believe. Backed up by Fabian Moreau, who was also a free agent signing. He made the team. Congratulations, Fabian Moreau, who played on the Denver team that beat the Vikings and frustrated the hell out of us in that annoying, stupid frickin' game. But Fabian Moreau has been a bit of a journeyman after his first 4 years with the Washington Redskins. He's now 30 years of age, is Fabian Moreau. Not as old as Gilmore, but you got a couple of veterans there. He made the team. Congratulations, Fabian, at least for now. And of course, he's, it's not like, he'd probably be like, hey, I've been a veteran in this league. Don't be saying congratulations for making the team, especially in this secondary. Come on, man. Well, it's a decent secondary when healthy. Strong safety, Harrison Smith. We'll see how much longer he stays in the NFL. Jay Ward makes the team. Congratulations, Jay. Played with Minnesota last year. A little bit special teams and such, and he'll be playing some of that as well, but also will be playing a reserve role at the safety position, but can be a special teams ace at times. Cameron Bynum, one of the best acquisitions Vikings had years ago in the draft, backed up by Theo Jackson. Good job there. Shaq Griffin, healthy enough to be on the team. Congratulations. And Caleb Evans will be his backup as well. So at least we got some pieces in that case. Congratulations to all these men involved. Just want to make sure I'm looking at everybody. Garrett Bradbury's our center. Yay. So we didn't even look at the offensive line. Garrett Bradbury, well, good for him. He's the starting center and all of that. I don't know why this isn't even showing anybody. It's kind of dumb. It is really dumb, actually. So my apologies there. Specialist Will Riker will be the kicker. Not William Riker of Star Trek, but Will Rikerd. Ryan Wright, again, who had a mediocre year last year, unfortunately. Right now, they're slotting in Ty Chandler as the kick returner with Brandon Powell as the secondary guy. Punt returner, Brandon Powell as the main guy. Jalen Naylor as the secondary guy. But it sounds like Miles Gaskin will be seeing some action as a returner. So we'll see how that turns out going forward. Got to get some other names up as well. I apologize. Some of that's not the best. Pat Jones as well is on the Vikings at the moment. Yep, Pat Jones the second. Yep, we talked about Mr. Ward there. It's a different Ward though, Jihad Ward. So interesting group of guys. Obviously, Josh Metellus obviously can be a safety. He's been all over the place. He's been a fantastic player for the Vikings the past couple of years. Obviously, great. Byron Murphy Jr. Yeah, something was messed up with what I was looking at. I'm like, this isn't everybody. What the heck? Andrew Van Ginkel, of course, also main linebacker. Dallas Turner, hello. Will he start? It looks like right now Van Ginkel's the starter, but Dallas Turner is likely to get significant time and probably will take over and be the main guy later on in the not distant future. Again, I apologize for that silliness. Dwight McLaurin as well, hanging around, looking good for the most part. Theo Jackson, I do believe I mentioned him earlier as well. Again, my apologies. And Byron Murphy Jr., of course, he's a veteran, young veteran and a decent one, even though he had some icky moments last year. It frustrated the hell out of him as well, I'm sure. Blake Cashman, Jonathan Grenard, obviously a stud, with Pat Jones the second and Jihad Ward behind them as well. Jerry Tillery, I do believe I talked about him already. Again, I apologize for the mess there. So stinking frustrating. All the practice squad players are updated. That's good. I'm just looking at all of them. Gant and Bo Richter are two guys that are rookies there. Injured reserve. Yep, Gabriel Murphy, IR at the moment, unfortunately. I think I mentioned all the others. Yes, earlier, of course, JJ McCarthy. Hello, and Mekhi Blackman. Yes, he's out for the year with a freaking ACL. Sucks. It really does. Yeah, it's like it wasn't even showing a whole group of linebackers and defensive linemen. Utmost apologies there. Garrett Bradbury is your starting center, backed up by Michael Juergens. A lot of people like Juergens' future as a possible starting center. We'll see how that goes. Blake Brandel makes the club as a starter at the left guard at the moment. A lot of people liked him more than, Dalton Reisner, and that's why he was going to be the left guard no matter what. Backed up by Dan Feeney, former Chicago Bear. Christian Darrisaw is your left tackle, like all-pro type of guy. Well, at least I think so. Pro Bowl level at the moment. Walter Roos, be backing him up. 6th-round pick. Makes the Minnesota Vikings, indeed. Ed Ingram's the right guard. And, obviously there's other pieces that can help out there. And we'll see if Dalton Reisner is able to come back and help as well. We'll see if he's on the team much longer. Ed Ingram's your right guard. Brian O'Neill, right tackle. David Questenberry, who can definitely play a role and can be very helpful when needed. For the tackle positions, I do believe I got to everybody else, though. Yes. So again, yeah. So I think I've apologized already enough. You're probably sick of hearing me apologize. So yes, that's your 53-man roster. That's your Minnesota Vikings going forward at the end of the day. So with that, we're going to kind of take a minor intermission. This is still the first segment. First segment will be your main guys. Yep. The first segment is looking at all the different players, of course, and all the, the guys that made the team, the guys that aren't going to be on the team, this and that, and maybe possibilities going forward. Of course, predictions as to how the season's going to go. That's what we're going to talk about in the next few minutes. And, of course, segment 2 is previewing the NFL, like how teams are going to go forward, who's going to get to the conference finals, the Super Bowl, division champions, blah, blah, blah. And segment number 3 will be fan interaction. So this is going to be a minor little intermission here, quick, in between. This will still be considered segment 1, you could say. It'll be like segment 1.1 and segment 1.2, I guess you could say, at the end of the day. Well, turns out it was a good thing to kind of switch things up here and have a secondary version of the first segment. Vikings news, I guess, one way or another. We're going to, yeah, if you've been living in a cave during the course of time, the last few hours, at least in this world, Mike Zimmer is back in the NFL, has a lot to say about the Vikings, about his Vikings exit. Unfortunately, I hold grudges. So, yes, this is an article by Mark Craig, Star Tribune, the Minnesota Star Tribune, as they now call it. Mark Craig, that was great. Good job. And we've been waiting for this to finally come out for about 2.5 years. So it finally did. Minnesota Wild general manager Chuck Fletcher probably would have had a lot to say about Suter and Parisi, especially Suter, with how things turned out. And he still has never spoken since. That was way back in 2018. So, but at least we got Zimmer. You knew eventually, someday, he was going to unload, and he did. First, though, before we get to that, I know, nice teaser job, right, Joey? We're gonna look at the schedule a little bit and kind of predict the wins and losses, and then we'll get to Zimmer and wrap up this. I'm almost tempted to just go with Zimmer first instead, and then kind of because I was always thinking of wrapping up the segment with the wins and losses. Oh man. Okay, let's get to Zimmer first. Okay, and then I'll wrap up with the wins-loss possible record. I might even have a segment 1.3 if that's how it has to go. So, yes, finally happy again as Cowboys defensive coordinator, former Vikings coach Mike Zimmer opens up about his miserable final act in Minnesota, the death of his son Adam, which is really sad, of course, remember that, and why he wanted to return to the NFL. Well, I'm sure he wanted to come back. He was the lifer, basically, and then was basically booted out. Now we got issues here. I had a feeling Star Tribune would do something like this. Okay, well, we're going to switch up things here on the spot. If humanly possible, I had it. Yep, okay, good. I'm just waiting for it to kick me out. Yep, so yes, Mike Zimmer. Oh, wow, he's actually smiling. So that was kind of the whole conversation at the beginning, like he's wearing something different. Again, this is Mark Craig of the Star Tribune, so citing the source. Obviously, this is not me digging up this information. This is Mark Craig of the Star Tribune with his personal interview. Sorry for smacking my lips. So basically, when things went sour, let's see. This is, yes, his second stint with the Cowboys. He was the defensive backs coach with Deion Sanders. That is not mentioned in the article, but obviously Mark Craig knows that, and it's not important at the moment. But yes, that was his second string. Zimmer's final act in Minnesota played out from the start of the injury-riddled 2020 season to January 10th, 2022, when owners Ziggy and Mark Wilf delivered the official time of death on the Vikings' careers of Zimmer and general manager Rick Spielman, who I do believe both deserve to go. That's me saying that. Zimmer was crushed, angry, sleep-deprived, the rare coaching lifer who had never been fired. So apparently he hadn't been out of a job in the NFL or football in general since 1978. That's the year my brother was born, my older brother by a year and change. Excuse me. So, yep, here's the quotes, and we're going to focus mostly on the quotes and kind of respond to them and such. Yes, so anyhow, they asked me if I wanted to address the team, and then Zimmer said, hell no, they got me fired. So I didn't know who I was supposed to go. I didn't know I was supposed to go to HR and sign out or whatever. No one told me. I just got all my stuff, got in my truck, and left. And then, this is Mark Craig. And then the quote continues, I can tell you I've not watched one Minnesota Vikings game since, or one Minnesota game since. A no-brainer reunion. Yep, so happy to be back with Dallas. And thinking, well, yeah, he's really good. He's an established defensive coordinator, so that's the part of the article where he's happy with the Cowboys, and we're happy for him. And yes, I am happy for him, just not when they play against us. Because, you know what? Rooting for someone to fail and kicking Zimmer when he was down with all that going on, not a good idea, though I do believe both sides needed to be, both sides needed to be separated one way or another, like a mutual parting of ways. But unfortunately, it didn't end up that way quite. As for Zimmer's old school coaching style, Zimmer's a straight shooter. Yeah, okay, we get the point there. The fear-based discussion. Apparently, Zimmer and Kendricks, who has been on the Cowboys and then re-signed with the Cowboys after again leaving the Vikings because, well, he was getting, I don't know, I didn't think he was that old, but he was playing like he was old. He was getting a lot slower. Wound up signing with the Dallas Cowboys, who actually had a pretty freaking good defense the last couple of years after giving up like 900 points a season before that. But that's why Dan Quinn now has a head coaching job. Unfortunately, not with a successful organization, at least not in this generation, but way back in the day. Yeah, the Washington Redskins were fantastic in the 80s and early 90s. Hope I'm not covering up anything. So, yes. Sorry, I'm just making sure this is actually recording. Wouldn't that be nice? It's happened once or twice. Yep. So, yes, they kind of kissed and made up, where Kendricks was the one that talked about the whole, fear-based culture, that kind of thing. Like, we don't need that. We don't need that. And yep, they were like, yeah, he was like, yeah, it was kind of a heated kind of situation, this and that, and try to clean things up. And they did. They made up on that one. So I like that. I like that a lot better than the grudge holding crap. I'm more about like, hey, I'm really sorry about saying that. It was a heat of the moment kind of thing. But both sides probably, again, needed to go. Both sides needed to go their separate ways. But that doesn't mean you have to hate each other for the rest of eternity. So that's kind of one thing. It's not an unpardonable sin or anything like that. Yes, I don't think a fear-based organization is the way to go. That was what was said. They talked about it and so on and so forth. So that's good. Another very interesting thing. So, what was I saying? Yeah, there's another part that was not mentioned on a different show locally. That actually they probably did bring it up on Score North, but maybe not. I'm not sure. Well, but I'll get to it here anyway, so you can hear my takes on everything. This was about a meeting that Mike Zimmer regretted near the end there in 2021. Yes, leading into 2022, which is obviously when he was done. Zimmer, I was always demanding of my players, and losing didn't make me happy. Was I too hard? One meeting. One meeting you were too hard? Okay. Toward the end of 21, when everyone was saying I was going to get fired, I pulled everyone together and said, let's talk about the elephant in the room, fellas. What followed was Zimmer defending his record and basically talked about how, Adrian Peterson, he's dealt with a lot of crap, basically like, hey, don't forget this. Adrian Peterson obviously got, in trouble in 2014 and then all that, and then ultimately just kind of took off. So obviously, and then in 2016, Adrian Peterson had the meniscus, and he was out until like the last minute, and then thanks so much, fumbled and all that. That was extremely frustrating. Fumbled in a key moment when 2016 season was still alive, but quickly fell off the face of the earth. Teddy Bridgewater's knee exploding. Yep, that's just a very depressing and horrible thing. Zimmer also had the multiple eye surgeries. Apparently the speech left players dumbfounded, so that sucks. I said I can take people shooting arrows at me. I'm a big boy. If I get fired, I get fired. But you need to go out and play good and do what you're supposed to do, basically. Some of the players' reactions after his firing hardly registered for Zimmer. So he basically makes fun of Chris Boyd. Remember him, who was like lined up incorrectly? He was offsides or something. It's just, what are you doing, man? Chris Boyd. They don't mention the quote that Chris Boyd made at the time, but he said, Chris Boyd, he said something about me. I'm like, dude, you had more special team penalties than anyone I can remember. And yeah, Chris Boyd, I still remember the episode saying Chris and Chris, the two different spellings, suck. It was a receiver as well at the time, who was really frustrating as well. He said how the criticism stung from some of them. One of the worst was Terrence Newman, in fact, probably the worst. So we're going to get to that right about now. Terrence Newman, who was with the Cowboys, with Zimmer with the Cowboys going way back in the day. Cincinnati Bengals, very good defense, and then ultimately got Zimmer hired, and here came Terrence Newman, the veteran defensive back to Minnesota with Mike Zimmer. That was a nice little package deal. Newman, that was again Terrence Newman, spoke with Tyler Dunn of Go Long and detailed what Go Long is a podcast, I believe, and detailed what he called toxic atmosphere in Zimmer's final days. Zimmer said, that one hurt me bad. Terrence was like my son. I called Parcells about that one. I called Terrence. He said, well, that's how I felt. And then Zimmer said, then look, we're done. So basically, Zimmer cut ties with Terrence Newman ever since. So, ouch. Ouch. Well, we don't know exactly how heated the exchange was in the phone call, but ouch. That's kind of harsh. Like, we're done, I guess. I suppose you could feel betrayed, but I don't know. That's how I felt, as in past tense. I understand you might have felt a little bit betrayed by how, Terrence Newman felt. Now that we've said felt 15 times, I could understand a little frustration. But, it must have been... Obviously, I can understand some of that. I can relate a little bit. How people kind of talk about you behind your back. It sucks. And especially if it's public humiliation to go along with it. Another weird one that none of us would have guessed Another weird one where things went south. Paul Allen, the KFAN play-by-play announcer for the Minnesota Vikings and KFAN show host, PA and the Paul Allen Project or whatever it was in PA and Dubai forever. They went south. Okay, that's really weird. So they used to co-own, them being Paul Allen and Mike Zimmer, used to co-own a racehorse. Zimmer bought him out. Zimmer bought out Paul Allen, kind of like Parisian Suitor, I guess, after Allen said that Zimmer snapped during the famous or infamous sideline exchange with Kirk Cousins and Mike Zimmer when Kirk Cousins punched Zimmer in the chest against that. It was that miracle little finish against a winless Detroit team or terrible Detroit team at the time when obviously Dan Campbell was already there, but it was that painful start to that season and painful start to the run. Everybody was making fun of Dan Campbell, and Campbell probably is going to get the last laugh on that one at the end of the day. They almost went to the Super Bowl last year, so I don't know. But no, back to that. PA basically said Zimmer snapped at that moment. Like, what was that all about? And then Zimmer's like, oh, really? So he said, hey, I pushed Kirk back pretty hard too, but I just didn't like what PA said. We're supposed to be friends. Why you got to talk about me? Unfortunately, I hold grudges. That's just how I am. Ouch. This one was maybe the most interesting one of all, maybe. And just kind of telling of the whole relationship with Zimmer and Spielman. They were pretty close for a while. And then I guess it's like, I don't know. So here's the quotes of that 2021 draft. Zimmer says, I walk in before the draft and Rick is watching quarterback interviews from the combine. Zimmer says, he hadn't told me anything. Normally he always kept me abreast of everything, and he and I were always good. Until they weren't, apparently. Yep, and that's what they're saying here. The first round, Rick tried to trade up for Justin Fields, who hasn't done anything. Yeah, I suppose that's true. With 4 third-round picks. 4 third-round picks, Spielman selected in order. Quarterback Kellen Mond, oops. Linebacker Chaz Surratt, who? Offensive lineman Wyatt Tavis, and defensive end Patrick Jones II, who's still here. That's great as a backup. Zimmer was there for only one pick. The Zimmer says, when he picked Mond, I walked out of the room. I left the building. I didn't even talk to him on the phone. Yikes. The two spoke the next morning. Rick said, you mad at me? I said, yeah. I think you took 4 backups when we had guys there I thought were starters. From that time on, it just kind of got worse between us, and I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying nothing was my fault. I'm sure plenty of things were my fault. So, yep, only Jones has been something. But all the other players had 0 starts in the NFL. 4 career starts with Patrick Jones II since 2021. So, very interesting. The whole Mond situation. Zimmer said, people make a big deal out of me saying after the game that I didn't need to see more of Mond. That was after the Vikings got blown out by Green Bay, and everybody knew Zimmer was going to get fired for sure. It was basically when Zimmer was like, I see him every day in practice. Basically like, read between the lines, he's not good. Zimmer said, yep, I saw him every day in practice. Maybe I was omniscient or something. He played 3 NFL snaps, 2 were bad. Woo-hoo-hoo. Yep, Zimmer, that's just something else. Again, continuing to defend himself, averaging 10 wins a year, really good defense with some quarterbacks who weren't as talented as Kirk. Then we paid Kirk a lot of money and ended up having to get rid of some guys on defense and weren't able to get the ones we needed. So that was ultimately the smoking gun and the turning point of the relationship between not only Zimmer and Spielman, but Zimmer and the Minnesota Vikings in general by going after, the ownership and all that, going after Kirk Cousins, because it kind of changed everything. Mike Zimmer was leaving hints that something wasn't right. So that something wasn't right about that. We're going to overcommit to a guy, and it's going to cost us other pieces defensively. And I don't know. Ultimately, this all spanned all the way back to the unfortunate Teddy Bridgewater injury, which was absolutely nobody's fault. Nobody's fault. And it's heartbreaking that all took place. It's one of the saddest things, actually, when you think about that. And poor Bridgewater, he'd probably still be playing and still be a pretty good player, might still be a Viking today. But I don't know. What was this all about? Okay, yeah, that Packers game, 37-10. Yep. The morning after the Packers game, I have my usual conference calls with the owners. Zimmer says, Rick didn't want me to ask the question, but I did. I said, what about me? What's my status at the end of the season? And Mark said, we're evaluating. Zimmer rolls his eyes and says, I knew it was over. Yep, and then he also talked about the death of his son. Yeah, that was a really sad situation. Chronic ethanol use disorder. Excessive drinking killed Adam. He was 38. He's also kind of blaming the Vikings for the death of his son by, when he got fired and all that. So, sad situation with that. Yeah, very sad situation. Time helps, and coaching, keeping me busy helps. But honestly, when pictures pop up on my phone and I see him and me together, it's devastating. So, yep, that's one of the reasons he's coaching, again, to kind of get his mind off some of that sadness of losing his son. He also lost his wife, did Mike Zimmer, as well, years ago now. So that's a darn shame. The article goes on and on and on. I don't need to read the whole thing to you. But lots of interesting and fascinating quotes, to say the least. So with that, I guess I'm gonna create a 0.3 segment for segment 1. So I had to kind of throw this in, because if I didn't, I'd be doing a disservice. So other than that, though, frustrating to see Zimmer being the type of person that holds grudges to that level. I think that's not good. Not good leadership. Should have had a better relationship with Kirk Cousins. Should have attempted, because he didn't even attempt to have a good relationship with Kirk Cousins. And by the time he sort of tried to, in 2021, it was already pretty much over. Like, there was no repairing it, that type of thing. You can repair it after football, I suppose, but I'm sure they won't, because they don't care enough at the end of the day. So a crying shame how things went south the way they did. But we all kind of sort of saw it happen. We just didn't hear it from the horse's mouth until today. So now we heard it from the horse's mouth. Rick Spielman, who knows what he's going to say? We haven't heard his side of the equation. Who knows? He may try to say it wasn't 100% accurate, but it sounds like pretty much about the way things went. I mean, Zimmer basically acknowledged how harsh he was. So it's not, usually you think that, Zimmer might be like, oh no, we talked it over and I was like, why did that happen? Oh, well, usually when it's the side saying it, they try to like sugar things up, like everything is, butter things up, like it wasn't so bad as people are saying. As this guy said, like he stormed out, So if Zimmer's saying it, that means it's probably true. Like admitting, I stormed out, I got the bleep out of there, because that was bull crap, that type of thing. So, and I can imagine it being bull crap when Mike Zimmer said, okay, you already have the bleeping quarterback, what do you need this clown for? So, yeah, that's pretty much what happened. With that, I'm gonna interrupt this segment again. The weirdest show ever, but hopefully you enjoy it one way or another. And we'll do some predictions when it comes to the actual Minnesota Vikings before we finally get to a regal segment number 2. Now we'll finally get to the prediction part of the first segment 1.3, I guess we can call it. So yeah, the Vikings went 3-0 in the preseason. Isn't that spectacular? Sunday, September the 8th, the Minnesota Vikings open the regular season with a nooner, and the first 4 games of the regular season will be nooners, which makes me smile. You can probably guess. Yeah, I like it. Anyhow, it's on the road against the New York Giants. Obviously, again, a team that's still kind of, I don't know. I mean, this game could be a trap in a lot of ways. Injuries, this and that. Heck, this could actually kind of be like a little preview, at least just for this single game in a sense. But I'd like to believe the Vikings are the better team. Obviously, the defense looks fantastic. I didn't even get into the whole Bryan Flores versus, that's another thing, Bryan Flores versus Tua conversation. So apparently Bryan Flores is just a horrible person as well. Like Mike Zimmer's a horrible person and da-da-da-da-da. So, I don't know. Mike Zimmer did not handle things well as a head coach. Tua, unfortunately, same thing, did not handle things well as a head coach. Kind of alienated their quarterbacks, and that's not the best. Did I say Tua? Flores did not handle Tua very well. So did not handle the offensive side of the ball very well. Just kind of like, oh, these are my boys here on defense and this and that. Unfortunately, it just didn't go all so great. Vikings are favored. Money line, half the time I don't even know what this means. Minus 120, Vikings in Giant Stadium, or MetLife Stadium might be more appropriate. Get Met. It pays. Okay, sorry. Thank you, Charlie Brown. Plus 100 for the New York Giants in this game. Again, of course, your main quarterback for the Giants is still Daniel Jones. So obviously they did not make a big move to try to get like a Drake May or the big possibility was JJ McCarthy. Thankfully, the Giants did not go for JJ McCarthy, and we can rest easy at that because, well, they just committed a ton of money to Daniel Jones. We know a little thing or two about that here in these parts about committing way too much money to quarterbacks that might not be the long-term solution for the team. Can't imagine who that might have been. I don't know. I think Zimmer was right about that. Let's just be fair. The Giants were putrid last year. The Vikings were, well, injured. They didn't have a good team. They didn't have a good season. They had a terrible start to the year. The Vikings, that is. Got a lot stronger. And then, of course, Mr. Kirk Cousins had the Achilles tear suddenly in Packerland. So, I don't know. The Vikings should be the better team. It's not the greatest vibe going into the season, but it's not the worst vibe either. At the end of the day, you have a nice, solid running back, which we did not have last year at all. And Aaron Jones, I didn't even talk about the guy a whole lot. But, I mean, yeah, it's a huge thing going forward with possibly, hopefully, at least there's going to be some focus on the running game, I would hope. Obviously, again, see, the first year with Kevin O'Connell, we know he's going to be more of a pass-happy head coach, pass-happy offensive play caller, that type of thing. He was a quarterback, and it's just he's quarterback-minded. He's the quarterback whisperer. Too bad we don't have JJ McCarthy, obviously, at the moment, but we will at some point. And Sam Darnold, who knows. But when you put into perspective what Kevin O'Connell may have had to work with in the 2 years he's been the head coach of the Vikings so far, Dalvin Cook was a great player once upon a time. He was a completely, I would say he was pretty much washed up in that 13-4 season. The Vikings running game wasn't so hot. Cook was okay at times, but clearly he was a washed up player already, even though he wasn't even 30 years old yet, which is ridiculous. But I don't know. I mean, talk about injury prone. Holy crap. And then last year you had, you had Madison. You had Madison as your starting running back. And I don't know, for some reason we didn't want to utilize the young man coming from Los Angeles, unfortunately. And then he tore his Achilles tendon again, just like he did in his rookie year for LA. That'd be Mr. Akers, of course. Big shame about that with Akers. Obviously, I don't know. We'll see where he winds up. I believe with the Houston Texans at the moment, so we'll leave that alone. At the time, we're not here to talk about that. But versus the Giants, again, this is a little bit longer than the others. I think the Giants are still an inferior team. You got to think again, both of these teams should have a better vibe going into the year than things ended last year. Going into the season, the Vikings did not have a good vibe going into the season, and things started terribly. The Giants kind of, got a little bit lucky running into a Vikings team that was maybe a little tiny bit overrated with that 13-4 record. Little bit of a bloated record there for the Vikings in 2022. The Vikings may have been a little bit overconfident going into that game, and the Giants frickin' beat us, which is ridiculous. But then the Giants were quickly put in their place, and then last year they just were garbage. I think the Vikings win the football game. We'll just say 20. Sam Darnold. I mean, we saw such a tiny sample size with him as the starting quarterback in the Minnesota Vikings. Kevin O'Connell knows what he's doing. For the most part, we saw zero of Aaron Jones, but we did see him a lot with Green Bay. Will Gaskin, I'm not even sure he's on the Vikings roster yet, which is kind of funny, but he probably will be when the time comes. He's going to be like he's going to be part of the special teams a bit, and probably a third down running back at times. Where Ty Chandler obviously offers that lightning to Aaron Jones's thunder, so to speak, the thunder and lightning type of deal. So I remember the Giants many years ago had the Earth, Wind, and Fire. That was a fun team to watch, actually, to be fair. But back to where we need to be. Vikings win the football game. Final score 28-17. 28 to. I think the Flores defense is really solid. I think the Vikings win the game 28-14, keeping the Giants to only 14 or 17 points, but under 20. Vikings keep the Giants offense to under 20 points. With again, I think Bryan Flores is going to do a phenomenal job this year with this defense. And obviously, you got guys like Dallas Turner and all that. It's going to be an exciting start. Dallas Turner will get a sack in his first game as a Minnesota Viking. Dallas Turner will get a sack in his first game as a Minnesota Viking. Darnold is going to throw for 2 touchdowns, in my humble opinion. Multiple touchdowns. You might see an interception thrown in there. In fact, don't be surprised at all. Let's say 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, but the Vikings win 28-17. 28-17. Vikings beat the Giants. Maybe multiple interceptions. Certainly multiple sacks in the game. At least 1 for Dallas Turner. And we'll see how things go from there. But this Flores defense should be pretty damn good this year. And it could be the reason the Vikings actually sneak into the playoffs if we do. Okay, that long preview is over. San Francisco Giants. Yeah, San Francisco Giants. Yeah, Willie Mays at quarterback. No, I'm kidding. Anyhow. Well, he even played for the New York Baseball Giants. That's how old Willie Mays is. God rest his soul. Passed away back in the spring. Amazing superstar baseball player. Arguably the greatest ever. I'll give him a moment of silence even though it's late. Willie Mays. I mean, New York Giants and San Francisco putting that all together. How can you not think about Willie Mays, at least for a split second there? The 49ers come to U.S. Bank Stadium, a golden opportunity for the Vikings to go 2-0. And Vikings had great success against the 49ers last year. Very possible the Vikings win this football game, but I will say, this is a tough one. It's a tough one. I mean, the Vikings could get off to a lousy start. The Vikings could start off 0-4. Honestly, they could. It's not going to be easy at all. The Vikings could start off 0-4 this year. I don't think they do. I think the Vikings do not beat the San Francisco Giants. We'll go with that. Houston Texans, incredible vibe. Again, another nooner. So Sunday, let's say the days here. Sunday, September 8th, Vikings beat the Giants. Sunday, September 15th, Niners beat the Vikings. Sunday, September 22nd, the Houston Texans beat the Vikings. Though part of me is just saying the Vikings are going to win one of those 2 games. Part of me saying that the Vikings are going to win one of these 2 games. Dang, I'm having a hell of a time here. Either way, yeah. Maybe the Vikings do beat the Niners. Nah, Vikings are going to start 1-2 on the season. I know it's kind of negative. It is what it is. It'll be very interesting to see the Vikings against Houston, but that is a team with a pretty good possibility of making a conference final run this year, even though I didn't predict it in segment number 2. Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field, another nooner, Sunday, September 29th, to wrap up the month of September. Hopefully beautiful weather there, which when it's nice, it's a gorgeous place. Not that I've been there, but you can see it. You can see it. You absolutely can. The Packers beat the Vikings, so we'll say the Vikings start 1-3. I know it's negative, but again, has it been a really positive vibe going into the season? There's been a lot of sad things happening. The Jets, Aaron Rodgers comes to town. Aaron Rodgers comes to town Sunday, October 6th, 8:30. Sunday night football. Sunday night football in U.S. Bank Stadium in the first week of October. The Vikings win. The Vikings win against the New York Jets. Kirk Cousins is no longer the Vikings quarterback, so I guess the Vikings might actually win a Sunday night game, even though the Sunday struggles go all the way back to at least the Brett Favre era, if not further. But the Vikings will win the game and jump up to 2-3. Then we go into bye week, which, well, that's nice. It's a nice time of the year, I guess. Go outside, enjoy the fall leaves. That's right about peak time. So, yeah, go out and enjoy the fall leaves. Maybe have some football on the mobile device or laptop or whatever and enjoy the fall leaves. Maybe have a nice fire outside. Sounds like fun on that Sunday. Sunday, October the 20th, Detroit comes to town. Detroit comes to town for a nooner. I mean, I can't pick the Vikings to lose every game, can I? But yeah, I don't think it's going to be a good start to the season because the schedule is hard. 49ers, Houston, Green Bay, even the Jets. Do you think that's going to be easy? Detroit, I think they win the I think they have a chance to be fantastic. I think they win the NFC North this year, is what I'm trying to say. They will win the division. I think they beat the Vikings, unfortunately. Dan Campbell beats the Vikings, where the previous coach did not. The previous coach was winless against the Vikings, but this guy has been pretty much knocking the Vikings around after that miracle win we talked about in the just a few minutes ago. Well, several minutes ago now, I'm sure. LA Rams, they were pretty dangerous last year, weren't they? This is a Thursday night game in Los Angeles. God, I don't see the Vikings winning this one either. Jeez. I know I'm coming off super negative. Oh, boy. Maybe the Vikings beat the 49ers. I don't know. For the sake of positivity, the Vikings are going to beat the Niners. So, okay. 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 2-2, 3-2. You lose to Detroit, 3-3. Lose to the Los Angeles Rams, 3-4. We'll beat the Colts on Sunday, November the 3rd. That's back to the Nooners after, kind of back and forth there. And then several Nooners in a row here. The Vikings will beat the Colts. Then I believe we jump to 4-3. Good for us. At Jacksonville, I don't know. I think that's a weird matchup. I think that's a loss. Unfortunately, Sunday, a nooner in Jacksonville, Florida. So that's a really early game. No, that's not that early. That's 1 o'clock. That's not That's not Mountain Time. Sorry. Jacksonville Vikings do not win that game. Drop to 4-4. At Tennessee, November the 17th. I believe that would be approaching Thanksgiving there. Tennessee sucks. The Vikings should be able to win this game, but 3 roadies in a row and 4 out of 5 road games. Oof. But but we all know how that can turn pretty quickly because things have to even out at the end of the day. Vikings will beat the Tennessee Titans, which then will make them 5-4. Just don't want to mess this up. So 1-0 Giants, 2-0 San Francisco, 2-1 Houston, 2-2 Green Bay, 3-2 Jets, 3-3 Detroit, 3-4 Rams, 4-4 Colts, 5-4 Jacksonville. No, 4-5 Jacksonville. So that 4-5 Jacksonville. Yep. And then 5-5 Tennessee at Chicago. Oh boy, I don't know if I like this one. 5-6. The Vikings do not beat the upstart Chicago Bears. The Vikings lose to the Bears in Soldier Field, but that's not all that hard to believe. 5-6 Vikings hosting the Arizona Cardinals Sunday, December the 1st. This will be the 4th consecutive Sunday nooner, which I love very much. It'll be 5 in a row. Again, I love that. But so 5-6 Vikings. Fret not, folks. Vikings have a shot at least a 3-game win streak here. Arizona Cardinals in U.S. Bank Stadium. Vikings win that comfortably, in my humble opinion. 6-6. Kirk Cousins comes to town. Sunday, December the 8th. Nooner. Again, this is the 5th nooner in a row right there. Kirk Cousins in Minneapolis. This game could go either way. It's like in the stock market, there's the Bollinger Bands, and when a stock starts to become volatile, see, the Bollinger Bands kind of have a general area. There's like the upper Bollinger and the lower Bollinger. It's a general area where the stock generally will go if it's a good day or a bad day, right? But then all of a sudden, when something crazy is about to happen, like a huge news break is about to happen, the Bollinger Bands go psychotically straight up and straight down. This is what this game is. Kirk Cousins might come in and make us look like idiots. Otherwise, we may beat the crap out of him and beat the Falcons in a semi-close but semi-comfortable game. I'm predicting the latter. The Vikings will beat the Falcons, 7-6 record. Vikings then host the Bears, 3 home games in a row, and the Vikings beat the Bears. So a season split with Chicago. Unfortunately, going to Seattle. So what does that have us at? 8-6. Whew, nice comeback from an awful start. Sunday, December 22nd, a 3:05. So the second group. We have to wait all the way up until almost the end of Christmas season, literally Christmas week in Seattle. So no whiteout there. Where Monday, December the 16th, that's a Monday night game at 7 p.m. I didn't even mention that. That will be a whiteout, and the Vikings will win their whiteout. Really get to see those cool uniforms with cool helmets. Seattle Sea Chickens. I think that's a loss. It's just like a traditional loss when the Vikings go to Seattle. If we win that game, go us. We just might make the playoffs. And that could have playoff implications one way or another, but the Vikings will not win that game. 8-7. Hosting the Packers. So we're either going to be 9-7 or 8-8. I think the Vikings jump to 9-7 with a win over the Packers. But then Detroit on the road. These are both nooners, of course. That is a loss. The Vikings finish 9-8. Third place in the division, in my opinion, behind the Packers and Detroit. In my opinion, maybe a tie, but the Vikings do not make the postseason. The Vikings do not make the postseason. A 9-8 record, but positive vibes going into next year, generally speaking. JJ McCarthy arrives, hopefully is ready to go. We'll see how that turns out. Maybe he'll be exquisite. And if he looks anything like he did in that preseason game, and then the team is ready to play around him, there isn't a bunch of injuries and such, or departures for whatever reason. 13-4, baby. There's a pretty good chance the Vikings jump like huge next year, or 11-6, 12-5, something like that next year. But this year this is kind of like the 2014 season when Mike Zimmer first came. Remember that, where there was positive vibes, like the team was like it was a mess. It was the end of an era, when Leslie Frazier was gone and we needed a new quarterback, that type of thing. So this one, it's not the loss of the coach, but it's needing a new quarterback and all that. Obviously, Cousins got too expensive and injured and blah blah blah. He actually got injured, which is crazy because he never did get injured before that. But Achilles tendon ain't a joke when you're in your mid-30s, so you don't really mess around that. It didn't work out too well for Patrick Ewing or Dominique Wilkins in the NBA, even though it's a different sport. Achilles tendons aren't a joke. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how it works out for Aaron Rodgers this year with the New York Jets. But I think the Vikings split with the Packers and the Bears, but get swept by the Detroit Lions, unfortunately, who are on their way to bigger and better things after winning the division. Nudge, nudge, hint, hint, going into segment number 2, the real full segment number 2. So, with that said, Vikings 9-8, missed the playoffs. Sorry to say that, but that's the vibe. It's not like I have us finishing, 7-10 again like last year, but we'll be a little bit better, but not good enough. And then the next year coming, hopefully the Vikings are good enough and can have a fantastic season. And there's a pretty good chance that momentum will take place. Again, the Vikings defense, there's a pretty good chance Flores will be the Vikings defensive coordinator for a while. And that'd be great. We'll keep him because Flores' head coaching chances aren't so good anymore with Tua's comments. That's kind of the whole Zimmer thing. Like, Mike Zimmer's never going to be a head coach again. Are you kidding me? It's not because he's a bad coach, but because it's something, it's hard to explain, but it's hard to put into words, but generally speaking, not a complete leader of a football team. Like, you're a great defensive coach. You're such a good defensive coach, maybe you should be a head coach. But then it's like, no, because you don't want to treat the offense with any respect. You want to crap all over them all the time, or walk past them in the hallway. I know that sounds lame, but heck, I don't like when people do that to me, and I'm 45. I'm 45 years old, and I hate that crap. I think it's rude. So I think it's rude. Sorry. It's not about being sensitive or being butthurt. It's just dumb and rude. Like, stop that crap. It's just simple. And if you don't like me, well, bleep you anyway. So I think I'm airing out my laundry a little too much here, but you can get the idea. Now, that does not happen from my bosses. It's the little people that are rude. That's the funny part. The bosses are pretty good, actually, where I work. That's the funny part. Just imagine your teammates treating you like crap. It's like, okay. But doesn't happen all the time, obviously. Just certain ones that are weird. Now I'm getting a little weird here. So with that said, all of you have a... with that said, we'll hope the best for the Vikings going forward. And, we're going to take a quick break, jump into segment 2, and then fan interaction for segment number 3. And we are back here on Purple Mafia segment number 2. We're going to look at the NFL's version of the preview. We're going to kind of preview the NFL, and that's kind of where I would like to go about things. Probably not going to be the longest segment in the history of the world. What's going to happen in the AFC and the NFC, what teams are going to surprise the people, what teams are going to struggle. I'm sure the New England Patriots are going to still struggle, but maybe be a little bit better with a different coach for the first time in forever, even though the different coach, the previous coach is maybe the best coach of all time, but you know how people's time tends to run out. That's just kind of how that goes. Maybe I'll start in the AFC, I suppose. Again, the AFC East. Who's going to win that? I mean, I still like Buffalo, though I think their window's closing. And, of course, Mr. Stefan Diggs is now with the Houston Texans. They're a popular pick, probably all over the place. You know, when a guy goes to a new team like that and it's a rising team with young talent, like Tampa Bay Bucks back in the late 90s into the early 2000s, it's like Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl, Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl, Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl. And then they finally did once, and then after that it was like, okay, never mind. So that was kind of funny how things turned out there. NFC East, though, yeah, the Jets, the Dolphins, Buffalo Bills. I wouldn't be surprised if all three of those teams make the postseason, but we'll have to wait and see. The Patriots will definitely not. The AFC North, you have the Baltimore Ravens, the Cleveland Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Steelers probably are picking up the rear there. Cincinnati and Baltimore, I think, duke it out for the division title. And Cleveland is lurking and dangerous, but I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it with the Cleveland Browns. AFC South, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Houston, and Indianapolis. I think most people are going to say Houston Texans win the division. I agree. Houston Texans are going to win that division. Tennessee, I just have no idea what to think. Indianapolis could be a wild card type of team with their young quarterback and Richardson, and of course Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, are they going to break through? Are they going to get somewhere? A couple years ago, remember they advanced in the postseason, did a little something, but then ultimately didn't work out too long. AFC West, same old bleep with the Kansas City bleeping Chiefs. Nobody wants them to. Well, okay, I'm sure a lot of you like them, but I don't. So I don't like the Chiefs. Sorry. Chargers, well, we'll see what happens with Jim Harbaugh. Las Vegas Raiders, I'll believe it when I see it. And Bo Nix is a starting rookie. So we'll see how that goes with their esteemed coach, Sean Payton. I don't know what to think. Vegas Raiders are going to finish last in that division. Chiefs will probably win it again, which is annoying, but who knows? Hopefully they have a down year, but we'll have to wait and see with how that turns out. Chargers, again, I guess I'll believe it when I see it, even though the talent and the coaching is there. Kansas City wins the division, Chargers second, Broncos third, Raiders last. So I'll pick the divisions quick, just for fun. Houston first place in the AFC South. Second place is going to be, Tennessee. No, what am I saying? Tennessee, my ass. Houston's first place. I keep going back and forth. We'll say Jacksonville second, Indianapolis third, but could threaten for the wild card. Tennessee last. AFC North. Cincinnati wins the division. Yep, Baltimore. Baltimore, though, is still going to be one of the top teams in the entire AFC, I think. It's a great division. Well, except for Cleveland and Pittsburgh. But Cleveland third place, probably out. Pittsburgh last. New England last in the AFC East. Until things change, Buffalo Bills win the division again. Dolphins second, Jets third, and threaten for the wild card. But I don't know. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to the Super Bowl. NFC East, Philadelphia Flyers. No, Philadelphia Eagles. New York Giants, Dallas Cowboys, Washington Redskins. Dan Quinn taking over there. Dallas, you got Mike Zimmer. Giants are, I don't know, more like the little people than the Giants. I think they're more closer to little people lately. Giants finish in last. You know what I mean? This is tough. Philadelphia, I think, why not? Philadelphia wins the division. Cowboys second. Giants third, Washington fourth until we see something there. Obviously, they have the great rookie there in Jaden Daniels. So we'll see how that works out. But he's just a rookie. He's going to start, but he's just a rookie. Can't count on Washington being great right away, and I truly doubt it. But eventually, Dan Quinn obviously is a really good defensive coach. Did a great job with the Cowboys, a team that had one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Like, they'd score 300 or 400 points, and they'd give up 500 points. It was like ridiculous. Or they'd give up 300 or 400 points, basically. We always made fun of the Cowboys' defense, and then it's like, wait a minute. Their defense is like the best in the league practically all of a sudden. Remember on Halloween night, they just kicked our ass. Remember that a couple of years ago? That was when the Vikings, the promising year, 2022, Cowboys came in and stomped the Vikings into submission because it's a great defense. So Dan Quinn definitely gets the credit there. The Eagles win that one. NFC North, of course, coming up last. Well, it's a good division, but not going to talk about it right away. NFC South, you got the Tampa Bay Bucks. Well, we'll see. They surprised a lot of people last year. New Orleans Saints, I have no idea. Nice, okay, veteran quarterback. The coach is okay. Defensive coach. I don't know. more of a nice guy than a good coach, though, I guess we'll say. Carolina is last place. I think they're last place in every division they go to. Atlanta, I don't know what they're doing. Michael Penix! Didn't we just get Kirk Cousins? Michael Penix! Come on, man! Well, I have no idea what to think. Michael Penix has played in no preseason games. Kirk Cousins just got a $1 billion contract, and he seems unhappy already and confused for what the hell the plan is. I don't know. Falcons finished third. They're not going to be good. I don't know. I mean, it's like I'll believe it when I see it. Well, no, I don't know what to say here. Atlanta should win the division. I think they should, and the odds favor Atlanta. But until further notice, I think the Buccaneers win the division, even though it's like there's nothing special going on in Tampa. But they're going to be that cute division champion that doesn't do anything, kind of like the Vikings in like 93 and 94 and all those years. Remember that? It was like, yay, we won the division in 2008. Yeah, and then see you later. It was dumb. Remember that? It was so frustrating. It's like, you get your hopes up, sort of. Wow, interesting, some of this. Yeah, so fessing up here, this segment is actually being recorded before everything else. The Vikings' final preseason game is going, and Jaren Hall is playing like his life depends on it. He is playing outstanding. Again, a guy, obviously it's not against starting Eagles or anything, but still, it's not like he has all the top weapons either. Looks like it was Hall to Hall there. Good play there. They were hauling it in for a second touchdown pass for Jaren Hall. Good for him, because he looked like dog dookie earlier in the preseason. Sorry. You'll hear about that in, off and on. Sorry. The NFC South, what's going to happen? I think Bucs win the division. It's between the Falcons and the Saints, old bitter rivals forever in the Deep South there. Believe me, my friend Dave Reinhardt, his wife is from Louisiana, and it's a bitter rivalry with the Falcons, believe me. Bitter, old rivalry in the Deep South there between those clubs. Carolina finishes last until further notice because they're terrible. But, again, they have the nice number one pick from a year ago. We'll see if he can have a better sophomore jump. Yes, he's going to need something better than what he had in his freshman year as an NFL quarterback. Atlanta Falcons versus the Saints. And that doesn't say much for the Falcons for their investment with their Kirk Cousins if they're competing with the bleeping Saints to finish second place in the NFC South. It's kind of like the Vikings getting Kirk Cousins, isn't it? It didn't get you a whole lot of excitement, really. It really didn't. Jeez. Just because it's weird and unorganized, Saints finished second, but probably missed the postseason, opening the door for someone else. NFC West, yep. So Saints finished second, Falcons third, Carolina fourth. NFC West, until further notice, 49ers win the division, even though the Rams are a massive threat. They finish second. Seattle finishes third. Arizona picks up the rear once again. I don't trust Kyler Murray. Just because he's on my fantasy team doesn't mean I think he's going to be good. He just happened to get there. Because, yes, I'm playing fantasy again, but shh, I'm not joining anybody's league. I'm just screwing around, basically. It's fun to be back, though, kind of. NFC North, it's first segment, second segment, whatever segment it is. Detroit wins the division, I think, comfortably. Packers second, I think. They should be second. And then it's between the Vikings and the Bears for third. Obviously, you get the great rookie there. They had a phenomenal preseason. 4-0 in the preseason. Absolutely nuts. The Vikings are actually considered the least likely team to win the division. And, of course, all the injuries to the secondary despite the signing of Stephon Gilmore, which is good. But, it's good. Kind of helps. It helps temporarily. But, again, obviously we're all talking about this year right now. What's going to happen? So I think the Vikings and the Bears do get out for third place, which means the Vikings probably don't make the postseason. But I guess you never know. Sam Darnold finally has some weapons and a good organization behind him. Not that the 49ers weren't a good organization, but he wasn't going to start, in San Francisco. So I know I've babbled about that about 1,000 times over and over again. The Bears and the Vikings kind of duke it out. Again, until further notice, Vikings finish third, Bears fourth. Bears can have their sexy preseason where they kick everybody's ass and they have the highest net difference in the whole preseason, 68 points. But remember, the Cowboys every single year used to suck in the preseason and then they'd win this, okay, that was back then when they were competitive. Forget the Cowboys winning any Super Bowls. Thank God for that. But the Vikings do not make the playoffs. Of course, third place, Detroit and Green Bay will be in the postseason, and we'll see what happens with that. Of course, AFC Championship game, I think it's going to be Cincinnati against the Kansas City Chiefs or the Baltimore Ravens, but either way, Cincinnati will not only get to the AFC Championship game, but win it again, and they'll get to their second Super Bowl in 4 years. Cincinnati Bengals return to the Super Bowl. Yep, Joe Burrow and the Bengals get it all together. They better do it soon, because you never know. Windows close pretty quick, even though he's an elite quarterback. Please stay healthy this year, Joe Burrow, and the opportunity is there for the Cincinnati Bengals to possibly not only get to the Super Bowl, but win it. In the NFC, what do you have as your conference finals? The Detroit Lions return to the NFC South, and I've been going back and forth with who plays it for the NFC Championship game. Did I say NFC South? NFC Championship game. There's not going to be any NFC South team there unless there's some weird upset, like Tampa somehow winds up there, and like they did last year, which is weird and crazy. It's like, well, congratulations, Detroit. Wow. So, no, they didn't get there. They got to the second round. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Detroit, Tampa Bay did not get to the conference final. They helped Detroit get to the conference final because they're just not as good, plain and simple. Could it be the 49ers again? The 49ers finally have another shot at getting to the Super Bowl again. I feel bad for them, man. Obviously, it's a franchise, beat by the Chiefs by the skin of their teeth 2 times in 3 years. It's frustrating as hell. I don't like the Chiefs at all. If you haven't figured this out, I hate that team, man. I hate the Chiefs. Hate them. Hate them with a passion. 49ers getting back to the Super Bowl would be cool. It'd be nice to see them finally get the job done. But I don't know. It's so hard to say. But I just see Detroit back in the NFC Championship game. I think they're going to play against... God, I just keep going back and forth. I think it's going to be the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to have a bit of a comeback year, kind of like Cincinnati is in the AFC. But I think Detroit will kick off with Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game. And you're going to see a crazy Super Bowl matchup that years ago, we'll say like 10 years ago, 6, 7 years ago even, would have been like, what are you talking about? This guy's dreaming. The Detroit Lions against the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl. Detroit Lions against the Cincinnati Bengals. 2 teams that you looked at were like, yeah, they can't even win a bleeping playoff game, in 30 years. They can't even get, they had a little jump. Yay, they made the playoffs this year. 10-6, 11-5, 12-4, out in the first round. Great, same old crap. Since 91 basically for both teams, right? All the way back to 1991 for both clubs, Cincinnati and Detroit. It was just weird. And then, they're going to be kicking off in the Super Bowl. And the Cincinnati Bengals, so it'll be two teams who have never won a Super Bowl that are going to go at each other for their first Super Bowl title. Detroit had championships in the 50s, but Cincinnati wins the Super Bowl. Cincinnati wins the Super Bowl, a team that had never won anything ever, no championships in the past, where Detroit had Super Bowls, NFL championships in the 1950s, when that's all it was called. It was the NFL championship game, and it meant you're the champions of the NFL. Detroit was the team of the 50s. They were a really good team before teams like Cleveland, of all the teams, they started, they won championships as well way back in the 60s before the Super Bowl existed. So, that's another one. It'd be cool to see Detroit and Cleveland in the Super Bowl, like 2 teams going way back to the 50s, or Green Bay and Cleveland, which it was way back in the beginning. But and the Chiefs. It was the Chiefs. I think the first Super Bowl was Green Bay, Cleveland, if I remember correctly. And then the Chiefs, I believe, was one of the others. It was one of the 2 against Green Bay. But Green Bay winning both of the first 2 Super Bowls. Yay. Yuck. Wisconsin, of all teams, winning. But Detroit versus Cincinnati, and the Cincinnati Bengals bringing home Lombardi. Joe Burrow does what he did in LSU. Wins a national championship with the LSU Tigers, and then wins a national championship, or wins a Super Bowl championship with the Cincinnati Tigers. So, congratulations to our friend Joe Burrow, who happens to be from Ohio. So, kind of ending the heartbreak for Ohio once again, just like LeBron James was able to pull it off, beating those frickin' Warriors in 2016. God, that felt good. Oh, that cocky, arrogant SOB team that won 73 games. Everybody thought they were better than the Bulls of 96. It's like, no, they weren't. No, they weren't. I'd love seeing Cleveland beat them. It was priceless, man. Absolutely priceless. But I think Cincinnati will win the Super Bowl. It'll be the first Super Bowl in the state of Ohio, and it'll be a wonderful time for them. And a lot of us will feel good for Cincinnati. Unfortunately, one way or another, if it's Detroit or the Cincinnati Bengals winning the Super Bowl, it'll be yet another team to put a Lombardi trophy in their trophy case before the Minnesota Vikings. But we've become used to it over the years. Since I started watching in '92, we've seen teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and New Orleans Saints win Super Bowls before us. We've seen teams like the Rams win Super Bowls before us. Seattle. I believe there's even another one. You go to the AFC, we've seen New England Patriots hadn't won a Super Bowl yet. That's another one. Baltimore. Well, they won it as the Colts way back in the past. Way, way, way back. But, does that count? No, it's the Baltimore. It's like the Cleveland Browns kind of, but I don't know. We'll say no. Well, it's a different franchise. The Indianapolis Colts did win as the Baltimore Colts, which actually sounds and looks better. Like Colt 45, that's where all that came from. Tennessee obviously did not win a Super Bowl. We saw Denver win a Super Bowl before the Minnesota Vikings as well. So several teams I've seen win Super Bowls before the Vikings win their first Super Bowl championship before the Minnesota Vikings since I started watching in '92. The Chiefs, of course, had won before. The Chargers have never won. The Raiders had won way back in the day, of course, beating us. The Chiefs and the Raiders have beaten us in the Super Bowl. The Dolphins, same thing. Yuck. So, yeah, that's kind of how that goes at the end of the day. So, obviously, Pittsburgh had won several Super Bowls before I was even born in '79. So, I believe they'd won 3, and then they won their 4th right after I was born. Was it like 1980? So, yeah, yuck. I think it was an all-Pennsylvania Super Bowl mixed in around that time. Good for them. And, of course, the Jets even have a Super Bowl championship, as insane as that sounds, way back in the day. Super Bowl III over those Baltimore Colts. Johnny Unitas. So, with all of that said, hope you don't mind my review. It's a little bit, or my preview. It's a little bit weird, but it's kind of fun. And I do think Cincinnati finally walks through the door. They finally are able to get through that window and bring home Lombardi. Hope and praying Minnesota Vikings will get a chance to do that soon, but unfortunately, probably not this year. With that said, we'll be back for fan interaction right after this. And we are back here on the third and final segment of Purple Mafia Season Preview 2024. Thank you once and always for listening to the show. I just really appreciate you, honest to God. So it means a lot. Fan interaction, unfortunately, I think it's still kind of taking a hit from the past, obviously by the Facebook page, getting the original Facebook page getting knocked off Facebook for some reason. I don't know if it's because my old podcast logo might have had the Viking logo in it, which I think is not good, and I should have changed it a long time ago. I don't know if it's related to that, but I don't know. So the Facebook page is up again, but we're going to go to Twitter for now. I think people are just ready for the regular season and don't really have a whole lot to say, and unfortunately that's what's happening with Twitter. Yeah, very much so. What was being said here? Yeah, Tanae Brown was saying Viking fans excited for the season just to have this preseason, and then he's just wiping out just to have this preseason. Yeah, I thought it was lame to watch. Yep, and then the injury to Mr. JJ McCarthy, and then other injuries along the way as well. It's so sad. I was saying I wish we could reset, like life's a video game, and you could just press reset to July 1st. Obviously, a certain cornerback would still be living, and JJ McCarthy wouldn't be hurt, this and that. It's just an injury to Mekhi Blackman. That was devastating as well. So, yeah, he's showing like, is that Victor the Viking falling down into an escalator or something? So it's kind of funny. Just whoops, that's pretty much what's going on with all this preseason has been. That's what it's felt like. So, Otherwise, Gerald String liked a tweet where I said Jaron Hall must have seen my tweet last week when I was saying he looked as bad as he did against the Packers on New Year's Eve. Must have seen my tweet last week. What an amazing first half. I know it's against second and third stringers at this stage, but still pretty good considering his teammates are also second and third stringers. I mean, the guys out there playing. But yeah, been out showing the Vikings shining the practice squad and such. So, gonna check really quick to see if Jaron Hall has been signed by anybody, but so far he is not. He is still a free agent. Unbelievable. So Jaron Hall has not been signed by anybody. Wow, I feel bad for him. So Jaron Hall is now hanging around. He's going to get picked up by somebody, at least on a practice squad, I got to think. I think he's shown enough to at least be a practice squad guy. Come on. Yeah, and again, the Vikings did sign Brett Ripien. So that's your third string quarterback instead of Jaron Hall. So Sam Darnold, of course, is the starter, so on and so forth. That's it for Twitter, at Purple Mafia Show, Looking forward to hearing from one of the coolest people in the world. That'd be Dave coming in from Northern Scotland. Absolutely love him. Dave Martin coming in from Northern Scotland. Obviously, Dave Martin, Mad Martin. Can't wait to hear from you again. Sam Gupta, thank you guys for being so loyal to the show as long as you have. Malcolm McSween from California. Gerald String is now South Dakota instead of Nebraska, of course. Who else? Obviously, Mark Carlson, one of the biggest of all time. Dave Hickey, who's on both Twitter and Facebook. Yeah, absolutely love hearing from you guys. Mike Dale, like absolute stud. Absolutely love Mike Dale so much. I know he was on Instagram last year, but he got frustrated, I think, with the way things post on there. So my apologies for that when he was trying to write his really nice post-game conversation, which now you'll be able to do it on Facebook again, Mike. So really looking forward to that. I'm going to check Instagram really quick before I blow off people, just in case. I don't want to blow anybody off. That'd be terrible. It's Purple Mafia Show on Instagram as well. Just one word, just like the damn thing would load. It's loading everything but that one. There we go. Purple Mafia Show on Instagram. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a whole lot going on. Yeah, I was talking about JJ McCarthy and the injury. And yeah, I didn't think there was going to be much action. But as we head into the, as we head into the regular season, I'm more than likely we're going to hear something. So yeah, I want to look at Cam Akers as well. Like, what's his status? I absolutely loved Cam. I really liked him, and I hated how the Vikings didn't use him. O'Connell didn't use him, and then next thing you know, like, what the heck? So Houston Texans. Okay, so he apparently made the team. Congratulations, and you'd think he would. Come on, how does Cam Akers not make the? How does he not make the like an NFL team? He's good enough to be an NFL running back. Wasn't he like a high end kind of a guy? So I mean, I certainly was a fan of his. Hard to believe he was drafted in 2017 and he's only 25. That doesn't add up, does it? That can't be right. No. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Not 2017. That's when he went to Florida State. 2020 Rams, yeah. That makes more sense. And then he did win the Super Bowl because 2021, the Rams won the stupid bowl. So congratulations to Cam Akers of the Houston Texans to join, obviously, the great young running back there, Stroud, and the ever-crazy, mercurial Stephon Diggs in Houston. Anyhow, Jaron Hall also, again, just in his second year and he's 26. That's not very appealing either, unfortunately. So the Facebook page doesn't have like a... You can look it up, and I did put it in the show notes. It's not like facebook.com/Purple Mafia Show. At least I don't think so. Hopefully I can do something to get that going. I don't know if I have enough followers yet. What does the show have at the moment? It's 61. Yeah, I went from like 1,600 to 61. So you can imagine how that must have felt. Felt great. Not. Let's see if there's any actual comments, though. So I'm sharing this. You have the McCarthy news, the injury. Bummer. The signing of Gilmore. Dalton Reisner placed on IR. Where is everybody, damn it? The practice squad. And the signing of Brett Ripien. Well, I thought people would comment on that. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, very quiet, insanely quiet fan interaction. That might be why you're just hearing me flapping my gums rather than hearing from you. So, guys, it's your turn now. It's your turn now to be on fan interaction. This is where I'm supposed to just, take a back seat to what you guys have to say. I want to hear what you have to say about Dallas Turner in his season debut, his NFL debut. It's going to be exciting. So, hope you guys are ready to talk Minnesota Vikings here on the Purple Mafia Minnesota Vikings Show. Purple Mafia Show, Minnesota Vikings Show. Of course, Twitter at Purple Mafia Show. Instagram at Purple Mafia Show. So Instagram is still very much an option if you want to go to the Instagram route. So very much an option if you want that. Can't wait to hear from you guys. Hope it's going to be a fun year. Guys, stay healthy. Maybe the Vikings do make the playoffs. It'd be pretty impressive. I think it'd be more for the reason of the defense being spectacular, even though we are pretty top-heavy offensively. Jordan Addison is expected to miss at least a week, though, with the high ankle situation, because that happened weeks ago already. T.J. Hawkinson will be out the first 4 games. You know that. That's not going to help, necessarily. That's another reason why the Vikings are going to start 1-3, I got to think. So, one reason after another. So with that said, I think I've flapped my gums enough. It's time to get ready and start playing some real regular season football. And that's what we will be talking about in the next episode of Purple Mafia Show. Have a very happy Labor Day for those of you that are listening to this show, either like the day of or the day after this comes out. Have a happy Labor Day. Anybody else listening afterward, I hope you had a nice Labor Day. Otherwise, the weather's great here up in this neck of the woods. Hopefully it's good in yours as well, as the temperature and the dew point have dropped mightily. And thank you, Lord, for that. Take care, everybody. God bless, and Skol Vikings.